Zoo FM Brekkie with Dan and Sarah.
It's 19 to 8, and that on a Wednesday, that means that we get to catch up with technologist Matt Dickerson. How you doing this morning, Matt?
Yeah, good, thanks, Dan. Great to be chatting to you and great to see Sarah again.
Yes, hi, at least over the phone.
That's right, see you in the virtual sense.
Exactly.
Oh, hopefully we can get you in the studio soon and you can meet face to face.
I think by Christmas, definitely 1 year we'll get there, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Christmas next year.
Yeah.
Maybe we can get one of these coffee tables that you've scouted out that has digital board games in it.
I reckon we could have some fun with that, couldn't we? I think that's a great concept. What better to do in lockdown than have coffee and play games and sit around a table with people, well, obviously people in your family and your household, that's about it. But I think the idea of playing board games is something some people have been rolling out during lockdowns, but I've got some millennials of my own and convincing them to get out bits of cardboard and tokens and move them around on a bit of cardboard just sounds really foreign. So this new coffee table is a great idea. It's got some of the old classic games. It's got things like Battleship. It's got Monopoly. It's got a whole range of old classic games you can download to it. You sit around on the coffee table and it's got essentially a tablet screen built into the top of the coffee table. Now it's waterproof, so if you do spill your coffee on the top, it doesn't go down into your tablet and destroy it completely. And you just sit there and play the game like you would in that normal traditional cardboard sense. But because it's got electronics involved, you can get the kids involved some way, somehow. They might see it's a bit interesting. You've actually got little cardboard holders that cover up words if you need, for example, playing Scrabble, not to let other people see your words. So you actually have a bit of cardboard still that sits on top of those words on top of the actual screen, and so you can still play those games that need it. And then the feature that I love the most, which might get a bit more dangerous with your coffee sitting on top, is if you're playing a game like Battleship, for example, and you get your ship taken out, then the whole table vibrates, so you know that definitely something bad has happened.
Plus, I think you've missed the absolute biggest bonus of this. Nobody can cheat when they're the banker in Monopoly.
Oh, well, that is the downside of it, I thought.
We learned something about you, Matt.
Well, you always find out everything you need to know about people when you're playing Monopoly in the real game. If they cheat at Monopoly, you go, right, that's told me everything I need to know about that person.
And there's some AI that's now mimicking your accent on the phone. What kind of benefit does that have to the community?
Yeah, it sounds interesting. I know whenever you've been to an overseas country, you don't spend long in that country before you start saying things like sidewalk instead of footpath, or you put a bit of an extra R in your words if you're over in America, for example. And so one of the things that we always find as humans is that we're mimicking other people. We're trying to fit in that community, that society. And obviously being a global community, lots of call centre workers are having trouble being maybe understood or even just accepted when there's a phone call that goes through and they're not talking quite the same language. Now, people have been working on a few different ideas. One of the ideas they came up with, which ended up being a complete failure, was the idea that a call centre worker speaks, it goes through an AI computer, and then it actually regenerates those words and then reads them out in a language or an accent that's local to that particular person that's called in. But the delay was just too much. The conversation would be too stunted when it was just delayed that much. The latest concept is as people talk in real time, it actually modifies their voice ever so slightly to match the caller coming in. So the computer listens to the person that makes the call and it's looking out for some different sounds, some different little pronunciations of words. And then as the call center person is talking back to them, it's actually modifying that voice accordingly. So the idea here is two things. One, it makes people feel more comfortable. If they feel like they're dealing with someone that's got that slightly same accent, maybe they're from the same area, maybe it makes them feel more comfortable with it. But the other part is that if you actually had someone talking in that really strong accent that's different to yours, it might make it hard to understand. This is probably not going to go all the way in making someone from the Philippines sound like a local Aussie, but it probably makes them just change their accents enough that it's easier for people to understand them. And that's one of the problems people have. When they talk to a call centre, sometimes they'll say it was hard to understand their language, hard to understand their accent. So a couple of benefits there. And I think we've got some issues there around just local accents, if you like, or local things around the world. But even in different parts of the same country, people talk about a Perth accent or a Tasmanian accent. So you don't have to think about it. A Melbourne accent, exactly right. You don't have to think about it too much, but you'd actually get that slight accent coming through.
Yeah, so you're saying that this is going to manipulate it in real time, Is there an example of this out there at the moment?
No, this actually is in, I suppose, testing phases at the moment. The company that's developing this one is actually ready to start selling their product to call centre operators around the world. So you might start seeing it roll out maybe over the next few months without even knowing about it. You might think, gee, this person I'm talking to on the phone must be sitting next to me. It must be someone that comes from my local area. They've got a Dubbo accent, for example, but they might be somewhere else in the world. And again, you'll see that just rolling out.
Well, I know that with our Alexas and our Google Homes and things like that, that one of the reasons it took a little while for it to come to Australian shores, America had it pretty quickly, but Australian shores, is because of the way we speak. Our accent is still English, but it can be completely different, to the point where I heard the biggest hurdle they had was the fact that we can basically turn a whole sentence into one word.
And the other thing we do so often is Melbourne is a perfect example. Who needs those vowels? Get rid of those vowels. Just run those consonants together. And Melbourne is pronounced, when I hear Americans pronounce it, it's very much Melbourne, because they're putting all those vowels in there. We go, who's got time for vowels? Let's just throw those away.
Melbourne.
Reservoir.
That's right. Yes.
So that's a bit of smart AI. But how about smart toilets? Is that going to be the next thing?
It is the next thing. It's actually already happening. You've got some smart toilets in some areas in the world where they're using them for testing, but they're not really rolling out to homes yet. But that's the next feature they're looking to do. And health is the big issue. Health is the big technology process going forward. I think it's quite interesting as we get more obesity around the world, we get more diabetes, more, I suppose, diseases we've got because we're a bit more sedentary than maybe generations ago. Then health is really the big focus of technology. Now, this particular range of toilets will come out and you'll go to the toilet and you'll get a reading, an instant reading back of a whole range of your vital signs. You'll get some issues about maybe if you've got gastrointestinal disease, maybe the amount of fat content in what's coming out of you. Can even monitor urine and feces for different things, even check blood pressure from what comes out of you. It'll give you recommendations about the type of food you should be eating. Hey, Sarah, you should be eating more fish in your diet. The thing I find really interesting is I started thinking about what happens when you go to the toilet and there's people that live in your house, that 2 or 3 different people live in your house. How does it know which one's which? Because it wants to track this information. So when you walk into the toilet, you say, hi, it's Dan going to the toilet, and that's fine. But sometimes it's not quite accurate with your voice, but there's something that is more accurate, and get ready for it. It will actually take an anal print. So the same as you've got a fingerprint, it takes an anal print. This is the breakfast show, isn't it? And it will check to see that, oh yeah, that really is Dan. I recognise that, and away it goes and reads those characteristics.
Is every anal print different?
Apparently, I haven't gone into it in great detail, but apparently it is just the same as the fingerprint. So you'll make sure that it really is that person going to the toilet.
So does this mean that I'm going to get off the old thinker, walk away from the throne, and it goes, geez, Dan, you could go for a walk.
One thing that it doesn't do, which maybe is a good point, Dan, we might need to get them to add this in, it doesn't do a weight check when you sit on the toilet. It just checks what's coming out of you. So
one at a time, please.
But the same way that you can go to a doctor and have things tested like your blood test, you can do urine tests, all these things. There's some pretty good technology that you can test what's coming out of you. All this in the toilet to test on an ongoing basis so that it can give you that information, that feedback, real-time feedback to give you some advice. The other thing I think you could probably do is take along your chart to the doctor and say, here you go, doc, here's all the information. I don't want to rely just on my toilet to tell me what to do. What do you think I should do with all of this information?
And jokes aside, bowel cancer being one of the more common ones, easiest to diagnose, and I believe the best recovery as well, recovery rates, but it does need to be detected early. And if your bathroom can do this, well, it could essentially save lives. Exactly
right. You're spot on. So we can get that information, but getting people to do the bowel test, I mean, they get everyone to send out the kit to people and they turn 50, and then you see doctors saying, I talk to my patients every time they come in, when are you going to do that bowel test? It's not a lot of fun doing a bowel test, I can't imagine. So no. I think if it just happened automatically when you went to the toilet, I think this sounds fantastic. I'm not sure how you'd go having friends around. Hey, come around to my place, because you can go to the toilet, it can check an anal print for you and give you some readout of what's happening out of you. It might be a fun party trick, but I think from a serious point of view, I think it can have some good benefits for people.
good benefits, including having a good laugh. Well, thank you, Matt Dickerson, for your time and giving us a tech talk today. Always super interesting.
My pleasure, Sarah. Good to see you, Dan.